The reason why you are having such a difficult time letting go of your avoidant ex is due to these 6 ways that you have been conditioned to. The first is that there's a push and pull dynamic going on. This, simply put, is when you start to get close to your avoidant ex, they will start to pull away. And the moment that you start to pull away from them, they start to push closer to you. This is such a powerful tactic that is used to essentially break you down, because that is where the manipulation begins. It starts to make you feel like you are the problem, because every time that you essentially start to try to go a little bit deeper with this person, that's when they start to react. And the moment that you pull away, then they start to get closer to you. So it makes you subconsciously start to believe that you are genuinely the problem. And on top of that, they will start to point that out, that it's you, it's not them. And see, like, when you start opening up, it's too much and they pull away, and then when you start pulling away and acting different, then, they're just trying to get closer to you and trying to do all these things, and they manipulate it to essentially make them look good and make it seem like there's nothing wrong that they're doing. But you need to understand that this is on them. They are essentially using this to cause you to feel this way. And what ends up happening after you've gone through that is that you still run that same narrative, feeling like this is you, you're doing too much. And if you don't recognize this, you can fall so easily to want to try to get back to this person, because again, you have been conditioned to believe that you are the issue here and not them. The second way is lack of closure. Avoidants are notorious for this, where they do not give you any type of closure, because this goes against their whole way of being, where they don't want to essentially open up and be vulnerable and deal with the conflict. So they will avoid closure at all costs, because they know that that is such a big part of gaining closure, and they essentially do not want to deal with that. But you are stuck with these unresolved feelings and emotions, or maybe there's something that you want to get off your chest that if you just were able to, you would make yourself feel so much better. You have to understand that this person is not going to do that for you. They simply have no desire to do anything in that realm. So while you are essentially trying to wait around to see if that's going to happen, they're simply doing whatever they want with whoever they want and leaving you cut and dry. So that will cause you to kind of obsess and to just try to feel like, you can't move on without getting that closure, without saying what you have to say, or maybe seeing if there's a chance that you guys can kind of work things out. But at the end of the day, you have to come to the realization that you're not going to get this, and it's time for you to do what's necessary to move on. The third is that there's a part of you that wants it to work out. I know that you probably are disassociating with this, but there is usually a part of you that actually wants to be with this person, because when things are going good, they're really going good. It seems like this person is such a great partner and you guys are clicking and everything's working out, and it just tends to be those moments when you start to let your guard down and open up and express yourself a little bit more that causes them to pull away. And when it goes bad that way, it gets really bad. So naturally, there's going to be a part of you that is going to long for the relationship to work out and is going to want to see if there's a potential that maybe you guys can figure things out and get to that place where you can just consistently be in that good moment. But you have to understand that this person has shown their hands. They've shown you their real intent and who they are and how they're probably going to be for the rest of their life. And you have to come to that realization in order to work through this, so that you are not holding your back from being able to move on from that. Which leads perfectly into the fourth way, and that is the illusion of change. This is something that I think all of us are guilty of. When we are around somebody that we love or we care about and they do something wrong, there's always going to be a part of us that believes that they can change, or we at least believe we can do something to help them change. And it's so contagious to be stuck in that loop, to where you want to believe that they can do this. You believe in them, they can, figure this out, and you can help them. You can do all these different things. But what you have to come to the realization is that this person has to not only want to actually change, they have to recognize that this is a problem, and then they have to take actions to actually make that change. And this tends to be not what a lot of avoidants do, because it requires them to go into a place of vulnerability and to really dig up emotions that they just do not want to deal with. So while you were sitting around kind of thinking that this is something that they're going to come to the realization, They are just simply doing the same things over and over again, and they have this fortress built to protect this way of being. There are avoidants who do the work to change, but again, this is going to need such a drastic shift in them and so much dedication that you simply don't tend to see a lot of avoidants actually getting to that point where they're able to work on from this. It doesn't mean that it's impossible. There's plenty of avoidants that do this, but you simply can't, because this is how the avoidant is. And if they ever do want to make that change, it's going to come down to them. Number 5 is emotional dependence. As you are going through the relationship with an avoidant, again, you are being put through so many different manipulative tactics and ways that cause it to break you down. And what ends up happening usually is that you begin to question your own self. You begin to become insecure about who you are and the way that you present yourself. And it just naturally starts to become where you are reliant on their validation. You're wanting them to reassure you that everything's okay. And whether or not they are intentionally doing this by either, telling you that you're the problem or, just making you feel like you are the problem, you are going to subconsciously already do that by their actions. Because when they start to pull away, when you are opening up or expressing yourself or just being who you are, that is going to fire off in your brain as, ooh, this is me. Like that's a bad thing. I shouldn't do that. Like that's causing this problem. And the more times you go over that, the more your brain is going to start to associate that as being a negative thing. And you tend to stop doing that because you're so worried that that's going to trigger them. So your brain just automatically associates that as being a bad thing and that you can't trust yourself anymore. And you're constantly going to them to seek that validation. So when they're gone, you no longer have access to that. So this keeps you in this kind of state of being where you just can't trust yourself to believe that you're going to be able to move on from them and heal from this and find somebody else who's going to love you. So you stay stuck where you're at because you think this is the only person that you're ever going to love and ever going to have in your life. And that's just not simply true. This is all part of their game and tactic and their scheme. They've planted those seeds and those booby traps even for you to constantly be in that mindset so that you don't begin to do the things that you need to do to heal, and you're constantly always available. And the last way is the emotional investment that you have put in this. You have put so much time, energy, and effort into trying to make this work. You have gone so long putting yourself aside, your want, your needs, and everything else to try to make this work. And this is causing you to essentially believe, like, I've put so much in here, I need to find a way to make this work. I don't care what I have to do, I need to do this. And this is such a debilitating trap because you are essentially going to stay stuck here because, again, this person is not going to do the things that they need to do. You typically see an avoidant doesn't do the things that they need to do to actually make that change. So while you are sitting here thinking like, I need to make this worthwhile, it's been so much time, energy, and effort here, this is just only prolonging the inevitable, which is they are going to be this way, and it's time for you to figure out what you need to do to heal and move on from this. You need to give yourself some grace and patience and understand that this was nothing to do with you. You did everything under the sun that you possibly could to make this work, and this is simply on them. So while you are sitting here thinking like you need to get this time back, you need to get whatever it might be or make it worthwhile, you simply have to just let it go and understand that this is a lesson. This is a lesson to yourself to understand what you truly want in life, in a relationship, and what you're never going to allow to happen again. This is how you're going to spin it so that you can begin to let go of this person. You can work and move on from there and build yourself back up again in those boundaries to make sure that this never happens again. I hope that you did enjoy today's video. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.